The topic, 10 keys to personal finance. Today I am going to walk through 10 of our favorite tidbits and tricks to improve your personal financial situation. So that is all coming up next. Stay tuned. All right, number one, increase your earnings. Sounds pretty simple, but this has such a big compounding effect. So as soon as you get one pay raise, it's really hard to come back from that. So one of the ones that we always like to focus on is just increasing your earnings. So that could be in the form of just increasing your base pay. It could be in the form of increasing your bonus. Maybe it's something outside of your 9 to 5 job. Maybe it's adding a side hobby where you can actually get paid to do something that you love. Maybe it's adding more hours. Maybe it's taking on some type of side gig. So the number one tip that we have for a key to personal finance is just increasing your earnings. Number two is save early and often. I wish I had more to say here, but this is strictly compounding interest. So getting money in the market, letting the markets do work for you. So the second tip we have for you is start saving early and often, put it on repeat, or what we'd call set it and forget it. So this could be in the form of your long-term savings, whether it's your employer plan or Roth IRAs, whatever the example would be for your long-term accounts, but also just getting in the habits of building short-term funds too and making sure your emergency fund is set up properly. So number two is save early and often. Number three is one if you're a physician, this is a very common word. If you're just a high-earning young professional, high-earning professional, this may not be as common as a buzzword, but avoiding burnout. Getting too caught up in the grind and letting it just wear you down as a person can obviously have an effect on your short-term health, but also your long-term success as well if you're getting burnt out early on. So number three, again, not the most common tip to personal finance, but one that I think is vital, is just avoiding burnout. Number four is protecting your assets. So this is, again, where I think we know it's important, but sometimes we just miss it. But by protecting your assets, I'm referring to disability insurance. As young professionals, our biggest asset is just the ability to wake up and go to work every morning. Life insurance if you have loved ones that are relying on your income. Good health insurance, good auto insurance, good homeowners insurance. Making sure you're protecting any of those big events that could hurt you financially. So make sure you're protecting your assets. Number five is live below your means. So if you follow the white coat investor, Dr. Dolly always hints on this one, and he says, continue to live like a resident. Really just saying that you need to have a income and an expense with extra income at the bottom. You don't want to be living paycheck to paycheck. So again, the number five tip we have here is just living below your means and making sure that you have excess room to either fund an emergency fund or just making sure there's some wiggle room in there. Again, the main goal is just to avoid living paycheck to paycheck. And I know that that's difficult. So building in some of those fixed, hey, I'm always going to put X dollars to my emergency fund. Just setting those good habits and building those into your budget is a good way to move forward. Number six is creating an investment strategy and really just sticking to it. We often will come in and say that the markets do not make mistakes, investors make mistakes. And really that just means that we're emotional beings and we allow emotion to allow us to usually give back most of the returns that we see from a market perspective. So build an investment strategy, make sure it matches up to your goals from both a financial planning perspective, but also make sure that risk tolerance matches what you can handle. And I always, I make the joke quite a bit on calls on just describing, your financial plan could say you're supposed to be risky, but if you turn on CNBC and get stomach ulcers every night, that's what we're trying to avoid. So we want to make sure that we're creating an investment strategy that fits both your actual financial plan goals, but also you personally and your own personal risk tolerance. All right, number seven is get out of debt and stay out of debt. I understand two forms of debt can linger in a financial plan, and they usually do not stress the financial plan, at least early on. First one that we've touched on numerous times with our young physicians is just student loans. Student loans are going to be there, but we want to make sure we're on a good path to either get them forgiven or paid off. The other common one is just a mortgage. And it depends on what your viewpoint is. Maybe you want to get rid of your mortgage. Maybe you want to pay it off sooner. And finding that delicate mix about how much do we put towards the mortgage and how much do we save. And same with student loans. How much do we put towards student loans? How much do we save? Really, we want your financial plan to include both the data from a financial planning perspective, but also your personal goals and your personal value. So again, the main tip here is get out of debt and stay out of debt. But the ones that we're referring to most are personal debt in the form of any type of personal loan or credit cards. We want to get those paid off and want to make sure they stay paid off on a month-to-month basis. Number 8 is one that I think we think about, but we don't maybe think about it as a tip to personal financial planning, but it's just minimizing the cost of education. So whether you are the one racking up the education costs, trying to get those as low as possible, whether it is paying some off through work, getting different types of scholarships, getting different types of grants, keeping that total balance as low as possible headed into it, or if we're talking about our future generations and keeping their costs low, again, this could be looking for those same things that I just mentioned, but also maybe getting a head start on putting some money into a 529 plan for our children that are eventually going to go into college and just preparing for that next phase of life as well. So number 8 is just getting a good handle on education costs and keep them as low as we can so that we don't have as much of a hill to climb when it comes time to pay off that debt. All right, number 9 is pursue low-cost lifestyle options or pursue low-cost hobbies. This is one, again, I think we know it exists in personal finance, but maybe we don't think about it as much. But some hobbies are more expensive than others. The one that always comes to mind is just boating and how expensive boats can be. I know RVs can also be expensive. It's not saying you have to live a boring lifestyle. It's saying that whatever your hobbies and your loves are, and whatever you're going to put towards them from a budget perspective, make sure that you truly value that hobby or whatever the event may be. Because again, I think it's from a cash flow perspective, if something's important to you, that's amazing. We're going to build that into your cash flow. You're going to build that into your cash flow and your budget. But you're probably going to have to give up something somewhere else. And that's really the blessing and the curse when it comes to cash flow, where you can love one thing, but it's probably going to take from something else. So the lower cost lifestyle, the more we can build that into, and again, just keep an eye on our cash flow and our spending. That is a big help in the long term from a personal finance perspective. Number 10. This one is one of the ones that we usually get a chuckle on when we mention this, whether it's in a meeting or if we mention it in a blog post or a video like this. But it's truly one of those things that can cut your net worth in half. And number 10 is just avoiding divorce. So whatever you have to do to make sure that you keep that spark in your relationship, whether it's more date nights, whether it's trips, whatever you and your loved one have to do, avoiding a divorce is a huge key to personal finance. I'm sure you have friends or family that have gone through divorce, and we know the horror stories that come with that, from just the emotional side, but also the financial side of things. So avoiding divorce is another key to avoid in personal finance. All right, and there you have it, 10 keys to personal finance. Like I said, there's way more than 10. These are 10 that I like to always mention. We could probably had a list of 100, but I hope you enjoyed these 10 tidbits. And as always, thanks for tuning in, and we will catch you on the next video.